Dear Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is absolutely an honor for me today to be talking to you, especially on the eve of United Nations Summit of the Future. As we gather at this critical juncture, it is clear that science has always been a driving force behind humanity's most transformative achievements. From unlocking the mysteries of the DNA to the breakthroughs that have revolutionized medicine. But if we do not democratize science, then a great deal of the world is going to be left behind. As we look ahead of the ambitious 2030 deadline for the Sustainable Development Goals, science will once again play a pivotal role in addressing the world's most pressing challenges. In this context, the governance of AI is a key issue that must be addressed with the same scientific rigor. Global AI governance cannot be seen in isolation. Rather, it is intrinsically linked to the broader scientific and technological ecosystem and the political economy that will drive the transformations we need. The responsible development of AI can support the SDGs, from improving healthcare and education to enhancing food security and climate action. But to achieve this, we need strong governance structure that ensure that AI is used ethically, inclusively, and sustainably. So this issue of algorithmic bias, which unfortunately can be disaggregated into two parts. The first is avoidable algorithmic bias. The second is unavoidable algorithmic bias. It's actually an important issue. So let us eliminate avoidable algorithmic bias and let us inform on the algorithmic biases that we cannot eliminate. The recent Global Sustainable Development Report emphasizes that while there is a growing awareness of the SDGs, what is needed now is action, firm action, and action that is grounded on the principles of science. And this is very important, especially at this juncture, when the trust in science is actually quite delicate. So AI governance must follow the same principles. And we need these principles to govern data, to govern algorithms, to govern computing, and to govern the applications of this technology. It has been impressive to see the UN take a leadership role in establishing clear frameworks to manage AI risks and ensure that AI's benefits are shared equitably while safeguarding against potential harms. But we need to urgently move from discussions to inclusive action and implementation. So therefore, the work actually begins now. The report is out, but the work, which is really to implement these ideas to materially and objectively change the material conditions of the people, not just in one part of the world, but throughout the world. So global AI governance now includes prioritizing the use of AI for SDG-related innovations, such as climate action, public health, and social equity, all areas where AI can make a significant impact, but only if it is governed well and it is governed fairly. One area of great potential is the use of synthetic data to address this emerging issue of the fragmentation of the world into the data poor and the data wealthy countries. Many countries, particularly in the global south, face challenges of accessing high quality data needed to train AI systems. And in fact, in many countries, the big forgotten, Mr. President of the ACM, problem of missing data, which has been forgotten because the people who are developing this technology come from places where data is not missing, or the degree of its missingness is actually low, must come back to the fore. Of course, synthetic data offers a powerful solution to deal with some of the issues of algorithmic bias. However, synthetic data is not authentic data, and therefore it is still necessary for us to invest into the infrastructure and the know-how and the education of data gathering, transmission, analysis, and storage. As we approach COP29, the role of AI in addressing the climate crisis becomes even more urgent. AI can accelerate the transition to low carbon economies, optimize energy usage, and improve our ability to predict and to respond to climate-related disasters. But it can only do that if we change our philosophy of design. For those of us who study engineering, we will know that you are told that when you are designing something, you optimize two objectives. You maximize the performance and you minimize the cost. However, it is becoming very, very clear that if that is the only, those are the only objectives you take into account, then the technology of computing is going to contribute to further contribute towards global warming. So we need to add a third objective to this. And this is the objective of optimizing sustainability. And it cannot be done in isolation, because if it is done in isolation, those who do it become business unsustainable and they get out of business. So the role of governance is very important so that we can all do the same thing. And this is to protect our environment as we use this technology to advance the interest of everybody. So there are many other issues around data. One other issue that I'm really interested in, and this is because of vested interest. I come from Johannesburg, and now I live in Tokyo because the United Nations University headquarters is in Tokyo. And in Johannesburg, there is a company called Lancet. So if I go to my app on Lancet, I can get all my health data, all my medical blood tests that I have done over the last 30 years. I can be able to get them, you know. But when I'm on the other side, I can't do that, because health data, you can't just move it across borders. Of course, it is not just health data. In a South African television, there is a show called The River, which I love it very much. I cannot access it in Japan, but I can use a VPN to access it. Of course, if it is medical data, you can't do that. So the issue of cross-border data flow is important. They are vested interest. Some of them are economic, some of them are reputational. But from the COVID-19 pandemic, it became very, very clear that if you do not share data, especially data that has something to do with sustainability, we all actually lose. But the sharing of data must come with security. And I'm going to use the issue of COVID-19. Researchers in South Africa during COVID-19 discovered a variant of COVID-19 called Omicron. And it was reported on CNN. And all of a sudden, as South Africans, were closed out. We couldn't travel. In fact, the virus metamorphosized in the public discourse from being Omicron to being a South African virus. This does not incentivize openness. In fact, it does the opposite. So it is very important that as we create mechanisms for cross-border data flow, the issue of security is very, very important. And of course, as we talk about the issue of AI governance, I think the issue of the balancing problem is important. What is this balancing problem? We all want transparency. Things must be transparent. But the more transparent you are, the less secure you become. So it is a balancing act. How do you balance transparency with security? How do you balance international governance models against national governance model? Just to give you an example, we are going to be adopting the Global Digital Compact. The African Union has already adopted the African Digital Compact. Now, how do we harmonize this so that we can optimize the outcome? How do we balance self-governance? IEEE, ACM, of course, I'm a distinguished member of the ACM, with government-led governance. It is clear that self-governance, the pure self-governance, will not work because I'm not talking about ACM or IEEE, certainly industry-led, there is conflict of interest. It is clear that completely government-led form of governance of this technology is not ideal. You need to find a balance. And that balance, if I were to invoke the old work of Pareto, we call it Pareto optimality, where you are on that optimal frontier is actually a determinant of our values. And our values must be guided, certainly as a UN official, by two documents, the Declaration of Human Rights and the UN Charter. So in conclusion, the responsibility of the international community in all this is very, very important and cannot be overstated. It is important because it protects the vulnerable, the countries that are not big enough, that do not have the economies of scale. It obviously protects the people from unchecked profiteering that comes at the expense of all of us. Just as we have called for more resources for science to support the SDGs, we must also prioritize the investment in AI governance, and by promoting transparency, being balanced against security, accountability, international collaboration, we can ensure that AI is developed and used in ways that reinforce our collective commitment to the SDGs. Thank you very much.